Zidane, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. But before we actually get into the video, I would just like to remind you to please subscribe and ring that notification bell.
Really, asking them to subscribe before you even start the video, isn't that a bit lazy?
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently only like 10% of them are actually Wait a minute, what are you doing here?
Well, obviously I escaped. Of course, that video won't release on the channel for a few more days or months, whatever the case may be, because you have to save it for a school assignment or some bullshit. Also, I'm your cynical side for videos now, because you're
Okay, yeah, this is bad. Well, guess we gotta... Wait a minute, why are you wearing the same outfit as me, just obviously inverted?
Well, obviously because you're lazy and you didn't want to put on the actual outfit.
Oh yeah, that checks out. Okay, well, you're going back to the trash realm.
There.
Anyways, guys, let's get into the video. Oh, wait, we already did that, didn't we? Well, since we've already taken care of Anti-Ninja, I guess it's time that we talk about Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. And yes, I have changed my look. I'm not going to go over it, but yes, I have changed between the last recording and this one. What are you going to do? Anyways, guys, let's actually talk about Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Now, this is a review for everyone. Unlike Which Console and the demo, this and also the gameplay review, this one is, or not the gameplay, the review, the story review, this is going to be a game for everyone, whether you're someone who is picking up the game for the first time, or any Kingdom Hearts game for the first time, or you're just playing, you're just curious to know what it's like and whether or not, and if you have been thinking about getting it, should you get it? And the answer may kind of surprise you. If you are someone who is on the fence on getting it because you've been playing Kingdom Hearts, but you know that this is a game about, well, I mean, I might as well show the joke again.
Gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I got who's it and what's it's galore. You want thingamabobs? I got 20.
Oh no, it's back. I mean, seriously, that joke that I made in my last demo review is still holding up to be true. It's honestly weird to think about that a joke that I made about just Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is actually very much still stands up. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. But yeah, let's actually talk about this game. So the first thing to note is that a lot of things have been added since the demo. Obviously, you have the you still have the track section and the co-op section. Those have always been there. We will go over them briefly, but not very much in this video. As well as, obviously, you have your settings, which pretty much are same for same. The only real difference is the fact that they've added the two new stages, or two new types of stages that are in the main game that were not in the demo. And also the tutorial section has way more tutorials. In fact, the only one that I haven't actually seen yet is the stuff about the online mode for Versus, which the only reason that I haven't seen that is because of the fact that I do not have PlayStation Plus, which is actually an important thing to note. We'll go over that when we get into the Versus mode stuff, but that's something to talk about when we get there. So anyways, guys, so firstly we should talk about what is new to this game. Well, the first thing to note is the museum. The museum has a load of things that are really helpful and really important for you to just play the game. Now, before we actually continue that though, the one other thing needs to be addressed. You will only have one game per account on your system. So if you are playing on the PS4, whatever console, whatever one you're playing on, that's the one that you're playing with. If you're playing on the Switch, any account that you've set up, that's the account you're playing as, and that's the only game mode. I do not think that there is actually a way to delete your game progress. However, this isn't necessarily an issue because of the fact that really there's nothing that you can't redo anyways. This game is so beginner friendly and, well, anyone friendly to who wants to replay it that it's kind of ridiculous. And it's really easy to actually look at everything that you would like to do. That's why I bring up the museum. The first thing to note is in the museum is the collections. This is a group of different things that you can gather as you're playing the game, and it will steadily fill up. There are character cards, Station of Awakening cards, story cards, many artworks and other things. All of these can be gained through the synthesis, which we'll go over in a little bit, but that is basically in your team menu. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically, you gain those through doing, playing through the game, and also, like I said, doing synthesis. The majority of these aren't too important, and basically all they have is little pictures for each of the different things for the game. And it's also kind of cool to see all of the different Keyblades that have been throughout the game, which I haven't actually seen all of them yet, but I do have to say that it does look kind of interesting. And considering how many Keyblades there were in Days, I'm imagining that at least half of the Keyblades in that thing are actually the Days Keyblades. But there's also a few Keyblades that you've never been able to get, be they Keyblades that were used by people, or if they happen to be a Keyblade that is only shown in a cutscene, such as the dual Keyblade that we get to see Riku and Sora use in Dream Drop Distance. Not going to go over too much information on that, but it's the one that you do in... it's the Link thing that you do in the last world. So, yeah, there's that. It's okay. It's not the best thing, but oh well. It's kind of cool to see that actually in its complete state and all of those things. Obviously, I can't show that off in this video because I recorded that clip before I got that, and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of different really cool items. You also get to see the enemies. Now, the thing about this, though, is that there are two things that you're able to obtain as you're playing through this game. The first thing that you're able to get are gold, and then the other is platinum. Now, obviously, for certain things, it's kind of cool to see this, but honestly, the gold and platinum system honestly doesn't make that much sense. Basically, the platinum is slightly rarer than the gold stuff, and that's not even necessarily true. And all that's different between the two is that one looks like has a little gold border, and the other has a platinum border around it. And that's it. Which honestly is kind of disappointing. Obviously, they can't necessarily do something different for each and every single one, but it would have been nice, at least for the enemies, to have the enemies that you see, if they are gold, then they could maybe be the classic versions of these different creatures or these different enemies. While if you have the platinum, it will be the final mix versions. And really the only enemies that don't have this distinction are nobodies and the whatchamadoodles, the Dream Eaters. That's it. Everything else is exactly the same, or they have some variant depending on what game you're playing on. So I don't know. It would have been really interesting to see that, especially because of the fact that most people aren't necessarily aware of the difference unless they've played both a Final Mix and a normal version, which unfortunately many new players will not actually be able to see the original versions of these enemies because of the fact that they will only be getting the Final Mix versions and not the original PS2 versions. That's another thing that I would also like to bring up. I do think that it would be nice if when you're playing this game you can actually choose between what art style you want, because some of those Final Mix enemies actually look really good, but that's just me. Next though, after you've looked at the collection, is the theater and the story videos, whatever. I don't remember what they're actually called. But the story videos are basically all of the story that you see as you're playing through the game. Basically, for most of them, and as far as I'm aware, all but maybe the last few, are all just the story that you just play through. And, that's pretty much it. Basically, a little bit of information about each of the games, basically catching people up. It's kind of like what we saw in Dream Drop Distance, where they actually gave you all of these little things that would actually explain, oh, what happened here and what happened here. That it also happened in Kingdom Hearts 3, because apparently Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3 were the two games where they realized, oh yeah, we have a lot of things in here, we should probably at least tell some people what the heck is going on here and why things are the way that they are. Obviously they didn't do too well, but but Melody of Memory is handling it decently. Are they necessarily going over every single detail? No, like, they're not, as far as I'm aware, they're not going over anything from the key stuff. But, I mean, Key is in a weird situation as it is, so I'm not gonna question it. And the same thing goes for Dark Road. But Dark Road has only been out for a little bit, so it's not that surprising. So, yeah. And also, neither of those games are actually complete, so, oh well. It's not a huge deal. But they do go over everything that you really do need to know if you are going to understand the Xehanort Saga. And that is what this game is. Obviously, I don't want to go over too much of that because of the fact that this isn't a video about that stuff. But, yeah. Now, as for the theater is not showing off cutscenes at all. Basically, any of these special songs that you play through that are basically on a path and then you hit a button, it's a weird situation. I don't remember everything, but basically when you're the ones where you're gliding and you're seeing the story in the background, that's what the theater is for. There's specifically the Simple and Clean, each of the main characters, Sanctuary, Don't Think Twice, Part of Your World. Like I said, that joke was supposed to be funny, not the actual thing where this freaking level is like the one where you're gonna actually probably get perfect before any of the others just because you've played through the freaking thing forever. At least if you're someone who's played Kingdom Hearts 2 as much as I have, or literally any Kingdom Hearts fan. Seriously. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, that will probably be one of the world's... That will probably be the song that you beat the first all the way through perfectly. At least that's my theory, but oh well, you can't really say for sure. Obviously then there is the That's basically the theater. But then there is the next segment, which is your jukebox. The jukebox has everything. Every single song that you gain in the game will go there as basically a way for you to listen to them without necessarily stressing about actually playing the game. It doesn't have everything that you might necessarily want for a jukebox, but considering the fact that it has all of the songs and you can basically just set that up to listen to all of the Kingdom Hearts songs just while you're doing some other crap, it's really helpful when you're working on stuff. So that's why I suggest that you actually check it out. And finally in the museum is the records. And holy crap, we are really, really far into the video. This video is going to be long. The records are pretty self-explanatory, basically giving you all the information about each of the different things that you've done. And they have a bit of a ranking system on how much you've done. First, you have your bronze crown, then you have your silver crown, your gold crown, and then finally, you have the Mickey crown. This will only show up if you've done a lot of whatever it specifically is. However, honestly, don't worry too much about filling out your records. The only thing that you really need to worry about to actually fill up, at least in my opinion, is completing the feats. The feats are honestly going to be so helpful to completing the game. And considering the fact that there's 80 of them, yeah, you're going to be wanting to fill those up as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, if you are someone like me, you're likely not actually going to be able to do that because of the fact that I'm pretty sure that at least one of those online things, or one of those feats, is for the online system. So unless you're going to be someone who's going to shill out the money to actually do that stuff, I don't know. And honestly, I kind of doubt, basically, if you're going to be someone like me who doesn't want to pay for it very often, then you're going to have to spend almost all of your time filling that up and not playing other games that you might want to, such as for me, I'd like to play Overwatch while I have that, but I'm not going to get too picky about that, so I'm not going to just go over all of those details. So, yeah, and that's the records. Pretty self-explanatory and pretty nice. Next up is the versus mode. This is kind of similar to co-op, but it's also a bit more of a pain in the backside. It's versus mode. You're going up against a lot of different people. There's one thing that you're going to start out with, though. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to be doing the comms. The comm battles. Basically, do 3 of these and win. More specifically, win 3 of these, and then you can actually go up a level or whatever. I'm not exactly certain on the exact details on how it works, but I think it's either win a certain number or lose a certain number, and then you either go up or down a rank. So I haven't done too much with it. I've only gained like a few ranks and haven't really cared enough. So yeah, basically you battle and then you gain the ranks. And after you've done that, after you've battled one time, you unlock online battle, which, like I said, I can't actually discuss what is actually going on there. And I'm not going to be showing off anything from the comm fights, but basically what you do is you select someone that you want to face. They have a specific song that they have chosen. I'm not exactly certain what it is for the actual online, but at least for comms, they have a song. So you click on their face and then you do it. And as you're doing it, randomly, tricks will be sent your way, and you'll be notified by a really annoying Chirithy saying, "A trick is incoming, 2 tricks activated." All that bullcrap happening over and over and over and over, and it's annoying as heck. But the tricks, depending on how good you are at playing the game, really don't mean much. It's basically, as if you're someone who knows the song, then you're going to be fine. Or if you can tell where something is, how close something is without actually seeing the ring closing in, you'll be fine. The early ones aren't that hard, but as you get higher up, then it does get a bit more challenging, especially if you're not necessarily good with the song. So I do suggest that you actually practice playing the songs in the track section, or practicing them in the actual world tour, or whatever it's called. So yeah, definitely practice before going into the versus mode. Then the last thing there is the Prophy pick, which you can see a whole bunch of things. Basically, you choose a whole bunch of things that you want to have on your profile card. You have a whole bunch of information there, and I'm not going to go over every single thing that they have on there on your card, but it's kind of nice to actually be able to do certain things. Basically, you choose an image of some character, and then once you have that character, then you'll also go into another segment, which allows you to choose the background, and then you choose the color. You have 4 backgrounds and 8 colors, and then you have like a crap ton of Prophy pictures, which you get from Synthesis. So yeah, definitely something to at least be thinking about, but you don't necessarily have to worry about it as you're playing the game. So yeah. But next up is, of course, the World Tour. Honestly, the World Tour isn't that fun, in my opinion. Basically, the thing that you're going to be wanting to do for this is basically just complete every single world. You get stars for doing certain tasks in each of those games, but it's not necessarily a requirement to get all of them. The fact of the matter is that more than likely, if you are actually doing well in the song, you'll get enough of the stars in order to progress. And really the only things that you absolutely want to do is, 1, defeat every single world and just clear it, so that you can then play that world's songs in your track list. And then you also want to watch, and if you're not going to necessarily focus on that, then focus on the ones that have the little video marker, as those are the ones that will actually give you something to go back in your story. And it's actually pretty helpful to actually see everything all at once and not be confused like all heck. Should you get all of the stars at some point? Yeah, probably, but honestly, I wouldn't say to stress over it. It's not like there's going to be any reward for getting all of the stars. There's no reward for getting perfect on any of these. But if you are someone who is a perfectionist, then maybe go ahead and try it. But honestly, the Proud mode, Standard mode, and Beginner mode really don't do much, except for the fact that it makes it easier or harder to actually complete this. So if I'm going to give you any suggestions, I would say play every single one on Beginner mode, learn the song, get the song, and then if you want to go back later to actually gain all of the stars, then first practice that specific mode on your track list until you're really good at it, and then go back and complete any of the stars that you're missing. I, for one, have already completed the blue stars, or dark blue stars. I didn't really give a crap about the white stars. Didn't really give a... I gotten all but the last 3 green stars, which you can't get the last 3 until you've actually completed the rest of the game, so yeah. And then I have gotten a few of the light blue and a few of the pink, but that's because of the fact that I've actually started that world. But other than that, really haven't done much. I haven't even completed the entire thing, and when you're seeing this video, the footage that you're seeing behind me is showing that I really haven't completed much of it. But it basically goes from Kingdom Hearts 1, then into Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memory / Days, basically those being branches that you don't necessarily have to actually do. Then you have Kingdom Hearts 2. Moving on, that's then has a brief little segment where you go into Recoded. Then that branches off into Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, which eventually merge back together and form into Kingdom Hearts 3, concluding with the final boss being in not Scarlet Kylam, the last world, whatever it's called. But you know what I'm talking about. The final world. So, yeah, there's that. Now let's actually go into the tracks. Obviously, the track list and co-op are pretty much exactly the same that you would have seen in the demo, except for a lot more songs. But one other thing to actually note is that your standard sorting system is not the same as it was back in the original game. Instead, you now have, as your standard sorting, it shows the worlds. While in the demo, your standard sorting is the game, where you had 2 from Kingdom Hearts 2, 1 from Birth by Sleep, and 1 from 0.2. Which, honestly, it makes some sense, but at the same time, it was like, why so few? And then also in co-op, you had 1 from Kingdom Hearts 2 and 1 from Dream Drop Distance. Now, a few things to actually note about this, though, is for co-op, and I don't show this in the video behind me, but I have actually tested it. Basically, in co-op, it's only ever going to be the field battles. But the way that you unlock the different songs is different from the rest of the game. Rather than having to go into the game and battle out throughout the world tour, you instead just have to do some playing on co-op. And then after a certain number of plays, you unlock a certain song. Each song actually says how many songs you need to, how much you need to play before you unlock that specific one. Now, I've only unlocked a few of them because of the fact that I have to kind of play alone right now. But once I have actually done more of it, then maybe I'll be able to do a bit more. And maybe I'll play through a lot more. The only reason I haven't actually played it with anyone was because of the fact that I just need to see it for this video. But it's pretty much the exact same. Still, you can't choose to do one button mode or performer mode, but that's basically just because of the fact that it's impossible to actually play those modes anyways with the standard Switch mode. So yeah, that's pretty much the only thing to, well, except for one button. One button is so easy to do, but yeah. And also, it's also possible that players won't actually want to do that. But who am I to judge? But basically, you take your controller, and you're basically just pressing X, circle, and triangle. And that's it. You're not, that's the biggest reason as to why I can actually do this on 2 different things and basically still do decent at the different co-ops and basically play myself. But next up is, of course, the track list. Now, there are a few things that I would actually have liked to have seen in the demo before we actually got the current version. Actually having a few more songs. The fact of the matter is that the songs that they had in the demo were good practice for seeing how songs will actually work. There were a few slow ones, there were a few fast ones, but for the most part, it was battle music. It wasn't the slow, melancholy songs that you're not necessarily going to be dealing with. So I think that it would have been better to add another one besides the Wonderland one. Well, because all 3 of the other tracks were battle songs, and I believe that the same goes for the co-op ones. Was it not necessarily a big deal? No, it wasn't a big deal, but it is something that I think would have really helped to make the game a little bit better. At least in my opinion. But the other thing is that there should have at least been one song for the other two game modes. And by that I mean the videos and the boss fights. For these, it wasn't too big of a deal because basically all you had to do was press X to, or triangle, depending on if you're doing X and triangle to actually do the attacks in the battle mode, as well as using the joysticks. And also you would have to also use R1 and L1. And then if you're doing Performer, then you also have the added chaos of the R2s, L2s, and then square and circle. But that's pretty much it. I really do wish, though, that they had done something. It didn't have to be much. It could have been, probably wouldn't have been Birth by Sleep, but maybe something like one of the main character songs, like Sora. Sora would have been a perfect song to actually put in there, because it would actually have helped people to understand how this game is played on these specific things. It's not a huge amount that you actually go through in the actual game. In fact, as far as I'm aware, as of my current point in the game, there are none that are that are just videos. Instead, everything is field battles or boss fights. But the boss fight thing was actually a really big pain in the butt. Now, there are even fewer boss fights in this game, and the reason for this is because of the fact that the boss fights are only shown, like, in the actual battle. You have Ansem, you have Xemnas, and you have Maleficent. Those ones I know for sure, and then I think that there's also one in Kingdom Hearts 3, but I can't say for sure because I haven't gotten that far. But I think that in the Kingdom Hearts 3 songs, there is actually one against Xehanort. But like I said, I'm not 100% certain if that's actually the case. So, just something to be aware of. But because of the fact that there's so few of these songs, it's kind of a pain in the butt to actually play through them. The lucky thing is that for a lot of these songs, there are two modes. Firstly, there is the standard mode that you go through. Basically, you have the boss fight. You go through the boss fight, and then you're done. And then you will have the field mode, which is basically just like the rest of the game. And then the same thing goes for the video ones. All of these you can also choose to play on field mode, which will then put you into a world that is similar to whatever that is the best fit for whatever you're playing. I don't remember where you are actually in for those field battles, but yeah. But at the same time, that is only for, as far as I'm aware as of this current moment, that is only for Simple and Clean, Sanctuary, and Part of Your World. And even Part of Your World is still a bit of a weird situation because you're not necessarily actually going to start with that mode. You could absolutely get it, but more than likely the first thing that you're going to get is the standard version to basically play through the movie, and then later you get the actual battle part, or the field mode. And that's it. The rest of them, as far as I'm aware, possibly more, but it's a pain in the backside. Now, the reason for why they don't do too much of that, though, is because the fact that you're not going to be playing through those very much in the world mode. The fact is that with Simple and Clean, you will play it before you actually begin the game. And that one is not a required to win battle. You don't have to actually win that in order to continue the game. It's not even marked as a tutorial. It's basically just your opening. And that's it. Play through Simple and Clean. Ta-da! And it thrusts it upon you without teaching you how to do it. Instead, you have to, when you go back to actually play one of these, be it if you're someone who used the synthesis to make the games, or you just simply go to the track menu to then play Simple and Clean, or Sanctuary, because both of those become unlocked, and the same thing I believe happens for the first part of your world, but I could be wrong there. All of those things take a while, and it can be a bit of a pain in the butt to actually unlock those. So, it's really up to you, but at the same time, it's annoying. And as such, I think that it would have been nice to have actually gotten some of that stuff, at least explained to you. In the demo. So if you're someone who picked up the demo, then you could have at least practiced before you actually picked up the game. Especially for those modes, because it was so freaking confusing when I was going through there and just being like, what am I doing? When you first do the battle, if you're someone who skipped over the tutorial, it's kind of hard to actually realize, oh, you have to get it on the line. It's not, you don't necessarily want to be looking for the circle to actually close in. You want to make sure that it's perfectly on the line for the boss fights. And if you're doing the songs, it is the circle closing in, and it's right in front of you. It's weird and confusing, and like I said, I wish that there had been a little bit more practice before we actually got into it. Obviously, it wasn't going to be something that people played over and over again. And most people will those songs will probably be the ones that people either finish first because they're way easier after you've learned how to do them, or they're going to be the ones where people do them once and then they're like, oh, fudge, this was really annoying, I don't want to do it again. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts, and we'll see how it turns out in the future, but like I said, it would have been really nice to have gotten some practice on those before we actually got the game. But as for the actual game, just in general, the game is good. It's a fantastic game that I really do believe people need to play. Whether you're someone who is new to the Kingdom Hearts series, or you're someone who is been part of this series forever, I absolutely think that you should pick up this game. Is it the best game in the world? Absolutely not. I mean, it's a frickin' rhythm game, and most of us who are playing Kingdom Hearts are not rhythm game players. As such, it's not the best, but it is still a fun game to sit down and maybe play for a little bit. If you're hanging out with friends, maybe play a few rounds of co-op together. If you're just bored and you're waiting to actually do something, maybe play a few songs. I mean, most of them are only like 3 minutes long, so you might as well. So just pick up the controller, play a song if you've got 3 minutes to wait, and just listen to it. Or if you're working on something, open up the records and then listen to your jukebox to understand what is going on, and just listen to it while you work. Honestly, it's a fantastic thing to do, and I think that a lot of fans are going to absolutely love this game, and I think that it's also a good way for new players to actually get into this whole game. The fact is that soon we're going to be getting ready for Kingdom Hearts 4. We know that there is going to be another Kingdom Hearts game before too long, but we don't know when. The fact is that Nomura has basically stated that there's not going to be something in 2021. So I think that this is a good game for us to be tied over with. And it's also since it's going to be out for so long on all three consoles, it will allow people who are learning about this and trying to figure out if they are going to be getting into the Kingdom Hearts series, will they like it? And for everyone who is new and picking up this game because they heard, oh, it's a fantastic game to start out with for Kingdom Hearts, which it is, they're going to be picking up the game on one of their systems, and then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. The story is so good. Or the gameplay is actually really fun, which, in that case, Kingdom Hearts is not for you. But that's beside the point. If you are someone who is, or you know someone who is at least thinking about getting into the Kingdom Hearts series, maybe give them this game. Is it a 10 out of 10? Abso-freaking-lutely not. But it is a good game. Is it a Kingdom Hearts game? Yes. And that may be a good thing or it may be a bad thing depending on who you ask. But it is still a good game. And if you are planning on picking up Kingdom Hearts and starting this amazing series, then absolutely pick it up. And with the fact that we have a whole bunch of more time now, after you've done that, maybe pick up the rest of the games. If you're playing on PlayStation, then you can get 1.5 plus 2.5 and then 2.8. And you can do the same thing, except I think it's the story so far on the PS4, or not the PS4, the Xbox. And then obviously get Kingdom Hearts 3 once you've played through the rest of the games. But it's up to you. So now that you've known what is going on for Kingdom Hearts, make your decision. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. And if you want to support the channel even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias and ways that you can support us financially, including our Patreon and our merch store. Which, just a reminder that the merch store will be wiped clean at the beginning of January to, well, make the new merch. So definitely look forward to that. And, of course, if you have any thoughts or theories, please leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure that this will be important. And I'm very sorry that this video was so long. Most of my videos don't even reach the 15-minute mark. But I had to talk about a lot of stuff for this. So, yeah. This is just the gameplay review. I will talk about the story review in a future video. And maybe if I do get a chance, I will also be doing a more in-depth look at the versus mode. And also, I will be doing something about co-op later in December. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. But on!